Hi, I'm jjbarnes and you're watching another episode of The Table Read. So, welcome back to The Table Read, where I am giving creative writing advice and having conversations about writing and talking about different stories and basically focusing on what we can learn from stories and how we can feel inspired and confident to try and get our own stories out into the world. Today's video was actually a request I had to do a video about how to write characters becoming friends when they very first meet. So I did a video a while ago about character friendships and how the friendships your protagonist has will benefit the story, how you can use those characters for conflict, for a place to speak to people, for ideas, things like that. And friendship characters in stories can be very, very important. They are a place for your character to express themselves and also support until they're removed and your character has to stand alone. Like, a friendship role in a story can be very, very powerful and very important, and one of the most key aspects of the surrounding characters. However, this is specifically about how do you forge a friendship between characters when they first meet. And this can be done in a variety of different ways, because there are different kinds of friendships. There's good friendships, there's toxic friendships, and there's friendships of convenience, sort of, well, we happen to be in the same place at the same time, so we'll just sort of buddy up. And that relationship can grow into a real friendship, a true, a friendship in and of its own right. Or it can sort of dissolve and move on as they find people who are actually more suited to them. That friendship tends to be a workmate or a classmate, things like that. So I'll talk about all three of them really and just explore how you can initiate those friendship relationships. So a good friendship. This can happen immediately. If you think about Harry and Ron on the train, that friendship is immediate. They see each other, they sit together, they connect. They have an instant understanding of each other, and that comes from a shared personality type. They recognize something in the other one that they have themselves. So Harry and Ron recognize in each other a sort of nervousness because they're off to the new place together, and a bit of an outcast thing. Harry feels like an outcast because he doesn't understand the magical world at all, and he really doesn't know what he's doing, and he feels like people stare at him, and he struggles with that. Ron feels like an outcast because he's the youngest boy of this big family. They've got a reputation. Some people hate the Weasleys. So he feels like he also doesn't quite fit in. Also because they haven't got a lot of money. In each other, they find understanding. They also find what the other one is lacking. So Harry, he is very famous and has a lot of money. So Ron kind of becomes important by way of that connection. He feels like he's found a place where he belongs. He's special, finally. And from Ron, Harry gets somebody who understands the magical world, can teach him, can guide him, can teach him all about Quidditch, can explain things. So he feels like somebody doesn't judge him for being an outsider, but is able to help him integrate. So that bond, that connection is immediate, and you can do that with your own characters. You give them something, a shared anything, something they both want, something they both feel they are lacking. Put them in a situation where they are surrounded by different people, but that is the person they have an instant connection with. And it can come from anything, but from Harry and Ron, they find their place in the world through their relationship with each other, and it forges them instantly. Now, Hermione, that is not an instant bond, that is not an instant connection, that is not an instant friendship. And this kind of friendship comes from something sparks it. It's not just, oh, we've met each other and now we connect, because they do not connect with Hermione, they actively dislike Hermione. They don't find that connection with Hermione until something happens that bangs it into each other, and that is her covering for them with the teachers. She says that she was going down to try and fight the troll and they came to her defense. The fact that she was hiding in the toilet and they went in too, that doesn't matter. The fact is she gets them out of trouble in a lot of ways, and they are suddenly finding that she's cooler than they gave her credit for. They like her. Something big and dramatic forces that bond together. Without it, they might never have ever become friends with Hermione. And, where would they be then? Because really, Hermione is kind of the hero of the entire thing. So to do that, you can have characters who start out enemies and arc towards friends. And that new friendship will be forged because something has changed. Something has brought them together unexpectedly. And that's cool. In Lily Prosper and the Magic Rabbit, Saffron and Lily go on a similar arc to Hermione and Harry and Ron. When they first meet, they do not like each other. They are antagonistic towards each other. Saffron is outright cruel to Lily, and Lily really despises Saffron. But then something happens. Lily sees the vulnerability in Saffron after she's forgotten by her au pair, her parents. Saffron is able to discover that when left alone with Lily, they have something in common. They are, again, both kind of outsiders. Saffron at home, and because she's trying to hide her truth and trying to force her acceptance in the world. And Lily because she's new and different and strange. And that bond is created when that vulnerability of Saffron's is exposed. Saffron allows herself to be vulnerable with Lily in a way she would not normally have done and isn't with her real friends. Well, I say real friends, her other friends, her first friends. And Lily, because she's compassionate and kind, the moment that vulnerability is exposed, she disregards all the feelings she had for her and feels the compassion and warmth towards her. And from that moment, their relationship has changed. That friendship has been forged. So you can arc them from enemies into friends, as long as you give them something that changes that relationship. A moment happens that however much they've been growing and changing through the story, when that thing happens, it brings them together. Now, a toxic friendship. This is a bad friendship. This is when the person is fully invested in themselves and not your protagonist, but they act like they care about your protagonist. So again, in Lily Prosper and the Magic Rabbit, Saffron's friends are toxic. They don't actually value Saffron as a person. She can't actually be vulnerable with them. They value her for what she brings and gives them, which is popularity. They don't care about her because when she finds happiness, they reject her because it's not what they want to be doing. And so much of a toxic friendship will come from that. It's, you aren't giving me what I want. And if you're not giving me what I want and being who I want, I don't want you anymore. I only want you for what you can do for me. And toxic friendships are really interesting to write because the conflict there, they might recommend the same things as a good friend, right? So they might, but it's for their own self-interest. So when your character meets a toxic friend, they are going to be manipulative. They are someone who is going to see something in your protagonist that they want, that they can benefit from, that will do something for them, and your toxic friend will latch onto your protagonist as a lie. They will present to your protagonist what they think your protagonist wants. They'll pretend to be kind and caring and good, but secretly they are manipulating behind the scenes to try and control what your protagonist thinks and says and does. And they'll be pushy and sneaky and coercive and recommend things that benefit them without any care for whether they benefit your protagonist or not. And eventually through your story, after they initially meet the toxic friend and are taken in, hopefully by the end they've arced and learned and recognized that. But your toxic friend could stay and just always be a force of manipulation and toxicity in your character's life. And it's up to you, really. Depends what your story will benefit from. Then you have the ambivalent friend. The friend who is of convenience. The friendship where it comes about because they happen to have been in the same place. And as I say, this can grow and develop into a genuine, real friendship. But it doesn't start that way, and they aren't necessarily very connected. If you think about Community, all of those characters, they start out as a study group just because they have no one else to study with, they need somewhere to go, and they just fall into a situation where they're kind of hanging out all the time, but they don't really like each other, they don't really get each other. Annie's a bit shrill and a bit crazy, and Shirley's a sort of mumsy and religious and tells them off, and Jeff is a knob, an arrogant knob, You know what I mean? They are all misfits. They don't really fit. They would not be friends in real life. In fact, Annie and Troy had an opportunity to be friends in high school and weren't. They didn't connect. They weren't friends. It was that circumstance in the right place at the right time that they just sort of fell into it. Now, some of those relationships develop. Troy and Abed become genuine, very, very close, true friends. But then there are still characters in that don't, and Piers doesn't ever really go out of either the convenient because that's where they happen to be, and he actually winds up in toxic because he's racist and aggressive and annoying, but he kind of still hangs around. So you can do that. They meet because circumstance, and those relationships will grow. Some of them will stay just, no, we're never going to hang out just normally, but we're mates here because it's normal, like to just sort of have someone to chat to. You can have ones that grow into good friendships, like Troy and Abed, and ones that go toxic. And it's when you've got a group setting like that, these people who've been pushed together by circumstance, like littered with conflict and opportunity, because that is so many personalities and experiences and conflicting motivations and conflicting experiences and views and behaviors, and it's interesting. Like, that's why Community's a big success, right? Because all these different personalities are like squished together, and it's cool to explore that. So that is my guide to initiating a new friendship and the different kinds of friendships that you can write about. Basically, they need something that they connect over, whether it's genuine and it's a connection that is forged because there's a real link there between them, or it's because they're toxic and they're lying and manipulating to create a friendship bond, or it's circumstance and you go from there and develop that relationship. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been helpful and I hope it has been interesting. Don't forget, you can go to thetableread.co.uk. Over there you will find links to articles and interviews, there's original poetry, there's all sorts of things going on over there with like a whole bunch of fantastic writers, all these different people who are all sharing their love of story and writing and just everything, and it's a really great place. So go and have a look at it and do subscribe there too. Also do subscribe on this channel. I'm telling you to subscribe a lot of things right now, but it's good, it's worth it, it's a good message. Also, don't forget, you can drop a comment on here and tell me about your thoughts on different friendships and stories, how they develop, how they're initiated, and any questions you have or any video topics you'd like me to cover, because I'm always happy to try and give the people what they want. So thank you very much, and I will be back again soon. Bye.